Hello and welcome to the Dune Minute Podcast, your place to dive deep, minute by minute, into the cinematic adaptation of Frank Herbert's world of Dune. I'm one of your hosts, John.
And I'm Zach, and we've never killed a man. Not even once.
Never.
It means the same thing. It's just fun to say it that way.
Yeah. And that's what Jessica says.
Yep.
Yeah, we're just going right into it.
Okay, this is my meatiest minute of the week.
Okay.
So yeah, let's get into it, man, because we're at the pinnacle of this movie. Everything has been leading to this moment.
Let's get it.
Let's do it.
So yesterday we left off with one of the very few mid-sentence minute breaks.
Yep.
So just to recap, Paul has now had Jameis in a killing blow position 4 times, and the Amtal rule states that death is the test of it.
Mm-hmm.
Stilgar turns to Jessica at this point and asks, "Is he, Paul, toying with him, Jameis?" And Jessica's response is, "No, Paul has never killed a man."
Yep.
Now,
Slightly
we talked about it
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
Paul has never killed a man in this way.
In this way.
Versus Paul has never killed a man.
So yeah, just to recap, from the books, Paul definitely does kill one of the Harkonnen guards in the Ornithopter.
Yep.
Which probably would have been his first kill.
Yep.
It's unclear if he's aware of it, that he killed someone, but he definitely has not killed someone with a blade.
Yeah.
Which is what Jessica's referring to in the books.
In the movie, Paul only trips the Harkonnen guard.
Yeah.
While Jessica does all the work in the Ornithopter.
Yep. So Paul's never killed a man is the line we get in the movie. Paul's never killed a man in this way is the line we get in the book. And I think this genuinely surprises Stilgar.
Yeah.
He starts to look at the fight in kind of a different way. Like he gets up, he's got a little bit more anticipation in his stance.
Yeah.
And
he moves from being laid out on his invisible chase to now leaning forward, kind of locking in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean he's like, oh, this adds another layer of complexity to the fight. I'm actually kind of interested now.
We ready to add another layer of complexity to the fight?
Of course. Let's get some spiritual bullshit in here.
Jameis breaks free one more time with a hard punch to Paul's gut.
Mm-hmm.
Jameis is still on his feet, still just screaming at Paul.
Yeah. Yeah.
With that, just I don't know how to describe it any other way than just animalistic.
It's guttural. It's like a feral animal caught in a trap.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And he's not caught in a trap at this moment. He's just showing all of that intensity.
Yeah. And then we get a big music swell and the lamentation singing begins.
And which is the classic cue that Paul's about to fuck shit up.
So I need to apologize. I fucked up last week.
You did? How?
I said last week we had our final moment of prescience in the movie. Today we have our final moment of prescience in the movie.
Okay, well, apology accepted.
I fucked up.
On behalf of all the viewers, apology accepted.
I'm going to make a YouTube apology video later, ukulele in hand, ready to go.
Yep. Well, as is our way.
Yep. Yeah, we're kicked right into it.
Yep.
With the old woman voice, Kwisatz Haderach. We see the bloody hand. We see the burning bodies. We see the bloody hand gripping a crysknife. Kwisatz Haderach, climb up, rise. And the way that she says rise is so good.
Yeah. I mean, they're ratcheting up the intensity in every single moment of this. And safe to say that was Chani's hand with the blade?
Yes, the bloody hand and the bloodied hand with the blade is Chani's hand.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
99% sure. Just wanted to confirm with you. That's Chani. We don't see face or anything, but we also know it's Chani because it's sepia tone. And thus far.
Johnny's been spending a lot of time in Mexico, man.
So when we snap back to reality, gravity's still there, thankfully, but Paul has a renewed sense of intensity in his look.
Well, he does and he doesn't, because he's also kind of spaced the fuck out.
I took his, like, he almost gave like a Kubrick stare into the camera right here. And
he's not Kubrick staring at the camera.
Well, I know. He's staring at Jameis. I understand that, but
he's not even staring at Jameis.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Where was he staring?
So here's how it goes down. Jameis, we cut back to reality. We see Jameis with his knife in his left hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then he moves both of his arms behind his back while he's yelling.
Yep.
This is a tactic to kind of confuse and disorient Paul. But Paul is just kind of zoned the fuck out, looking at where the knife was in Jameis's left hand. And he doesn't, like, his eyes don't move from this position and everything. I think he's still, like, I think this is happening while he's having his vision, and he's still just kind of like zoned the fuck out. Jameis then, prepares to lunge at Paul with the knife in his right hand, and Paul snaps out of it immediately. Jameis misses the lunge, and Paul, whether consciously or unconsciously, it's hard to tell, kind of parries with his own knife into Jameis's back. Jameis lunges a few steps further, and the camera changes to behind Jameis. Paul's knife is deep into one of what I would assume is Jameis's kidneys, based on the location and the angle that the knife is going into his body, because it looks like it enters a kidney and then goes up to either like one of his lungs or his aorta or something like that.
The script,
it's hard to tell because of the still suit covering portions of the body.
The script gives a little bit of insight into this, although I don't know if the actual
it's definitely a
action,
kidney shot. Like,
well,
it's,
I don't know if the action, like the stunt coordination matched up exactly to what the script gives.
Yeah.
The script says, but Paul has seen the switch. He too switches his knife hands.
Yep.
Blocking Jameis's knife arm with the empty hand. With the other, he drives his knife under Jameis's ribs into his heart.
Okay.
So I don't know if that exactly lines up, because I thought it was lower as well.
It definitely looked kidney, but
yeah.
Point is, the knife went in deep because we see, once again, if you're going frame by frame, you see that Paul is basically up to, not entirely, but up to his hand inside of Jameis.
Gosh.
It's over.
Yeah.
And we are certainly over when Paul just yanks the Chris knife out of Jameis's body.
Mm-hmm. Is this the same way that Paul got murked in his dream before the fight?
No.
It looked very similar.
No. So Paul, in his dream, gets murked from the front.
Okay.
And we're diving in here.
Good.
Jameis murks Paul with his right hand in that same motion.
Mm-hmm.
But in his vision, Paul is going in from the top with an overhead strike.
Okay.
And Jameis finds his opening in Paul's gut. So Paul had his vision earlier. He knows what not to do.
Okay.
He doesn't go for the overhead strike. He goes for the around and,
underneath,
backstab.
Ah, okay.
Which is kind of bullshit.
Well, why?
You're gonna fucking stab this dude in the back. You're not gonna fucking...
It was probably more of a side thing.
It was a back thing. Anyways. All I'm saying, it's a little cheap.
They've already established that, take your shots when you can get them.
Yeah. No, I get it. Anyways. Jameis stumbles forward for a moment and then falls to the ground in front of a kneeling Stilgar.
Mm-hmm.
We then see Paul immediately get down and try and help Jameis. Just as Jameis had helped Paul after Paul was stabbed in his vision earlier.
Did you interpret that as him trying to help? I just interpreted that as him being like just with him as he died.
Sure. I mean, you can call comforting him, helping him.
Yeah. I don't think he was trying to save his life by
I
any
don't
stretch.
I don't think he was trying to save his life, but he was definitely down there with him.
Yeah.
Like, he could have just, like, fucked off.
That's fair.
Right.
It's a respect thing. I took it as
Sure.
hey, I'm honoring you after this fight kind of thing.
Yeah. Stilgar and the rest of the Fremen begin to rise, with the exception of Chani. We see her remain seated. She's watching from a distance, and Jessica is standing still with a look of shock and then relief on her face.
Yeah.
Jameis is on the ground groaning in pain, and Paul kneels down next to him. We see a shot of the bloody knife in Paul's hand as he's comforting Jameis as he is dying.
Yep.
Once again, mirroring what Paul saw in his vision earlier, where Jameis was kneeled next to Paul, bloody knife in hand, as Paul is dying.
It's almost as if he followed the friend.
Almost.
You know? Taking cues. And I mean, that's, again, not something that is explicitly mentioned here, but, you know, a keen observer would recognize the similarities between Jameis's actions and Paul following those actions.
Yeah.
Not to the letter, but close enough.
Correct. Paul's first vision shows him how Jameis will attempt to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And he uses that information to course correct to the outcome that Paul knows needs to be the way.
Yeah. Yep.
A golden path, as it were.
So Jessica's look, I interpreted it as, I think, slightly different than you did. She definitely sighs in relief.
Yeah.
Here. But I almost took her look right after the sigh of relief as like disappointment.
So relief, then disappointment?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was still in like the shock and stress and then the relief.
She's like sighs in relief, and then she gets that intensity back in her look.
Yeah.
And I took it as a look of disappointment for reasons I will tell you about in a second.
Okay. That's where that's the end of the minute as far as the movie is concerned. Yeah. So if you have book notes to compare to.
Yeah. Let's, I got a few here. So I mentioned yesterday that the book is more focused on internal monologue and thoughts than it is action.
Correct.
So Paul's having a really, really hard time understanding his prescience. And this is what I mentioned a bit yesterday. We get some clarity as the passage goes on. This cave that they're in, like this cave in the book, cavern in the movie. He describes.
No, they're in a canyon.
Canyon. That's what I meant to say. Excuse me. Canyon.
Yeah, they don't have fucking glow globes. Pissing me off.
They describe it in the books as a blurred nexus. Like all the variables and all the little paths and everything that Paul has seen come to this moment, and he does not see anything that's happening here. He's like, you can get right up to it, but he doesn't know what's going to happen.
Okay.
And he describes it as like there's too many variables. I mentioned yesterday, like the coughing of a Fremen, a distracting shadow, like all these things could change the outcome from what he has, seen glimpses of previously. But he cannot see what's happening here because there's just too much to compute.
Who's the slow one now, motherfucker?
Well, I don't know. I still think he's faster than either of us.
You and I have a combined 2 brain cells to share. So, yeah.
So Paul doesn't know what's going on. And he's really struggling to deal with this. Jameis, on the other hand, is becoming increasingly sporadic in his fighting. Jessica is thinking about how Jameis initially saw Paul as someone who is like, very easy to kill.
Yeah.
But Paul is clearly better trained than Jameis gave him credit for. And his slow on attack, quick on defense fighting style is frustrating the fuck out of Jameis. And
because he's not used to it.
No, he's not.
So.
And it's making him become unhinged. Like even like, and that's what we get with like the screams and everything like that. Like he's frustrated and it's making him become unpredictable, which is leading into Paul's blurred vision of what's happening right now. Because there's an unstable element that he's fighting. So Paul has to just basically take a step out of prescience and just rely on the training that he's gotten from Duncan and Gurney.
Yeah.
One of the things that he mentions is that if the opponent has any kind of fear or doubt, use it. Let them sit with that. It'll freak them out. It'll make them become more unhinged and more likely to make a mistake. And this is what makes the Fremen think that Paul is toying with him, because he wants Jamis to be in this uncomfortable position. He doesn't want it to end. He wants it to kind of drag out for a little bit so that Jamis will make a mistake.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that prompted Stilgar to be like, is he toying with him? So Paul finds the same opening that he does in the movie, in the books. And the death pretty much happens the exact same way. It's a little less dramatic, but it's the same way. Jamis tries to do like feign a stumble in his feet.
Some fuckery.
Yeah. Well, he tries to like fake a stumble that would distract Paul as he's switching the blades in his hands. And Paul sees it. He's the same kind of like up into the heart, motion kills Jamis. The only difference that I can see right here is that in the books, Jamis is just gone.
Yeah.
Like there's comforting.
There's no moment. There's no,
semi-slow death or anything that happens. He just like crumples.
Yeah.
Which is fine for book writing. Doesn't really do a lot for on-screen deaths.
I mean, as we know, Frank was maybe not the best at giving the most detailed.
Yeah,
a George R.R. Martin. He was not.
Yeah, this would take up 2 chapters, 2 full chapters from 3 different perspectives.
50 pages. We'll have Stilgar's perspective. We'll have Chani's perspective.
Exactly. So, he finds it opening, murks him. He's done.
Yep.
I brought up Jessica's look of disappointment, or what I perceive to be disappointment, because that is clearly what is happening in the books in this moment. She is very worried that because Paul has just bested Jamis, that it's going to change him in a way that is not good. A passage from the book that it's expressly relevant to this moment. This is from Jessica's inner monologue.
Okay.
She says, "Now is the terrible moment," she thought. "He has killed a man in clear superiority of mind and muscle. He must not grow to enjoy such a victory." And then
that's a fair response from a mother watching her child just kill a man.
Well, she takes it a step further.
Okay.
This is bleeding into tomorrow's minute a little bit, but it's more relevant now than it is tomorrow.
Okay.
The first words that she says to Paul after the fight is over, is she walks up to him and goes, "Well, now, how does it feel to be a killer?" Which is fucking cold, man.
Jesus Christ.
God, just imagine that from Paul's perspective. He just got done with probably the worst test of his life, maybe outside of the Gom Jabbar. And his mother just comes up to him and goes, "Fucking murderer." Jesus.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal.
So she is not letting his ego get out of control at all.
Yeah.
Here.
Well, I mean, if there's anyone that is going to keep an ego in check, it's going to be a Bene Gesserit.
That's fair. That's very fair. So that's the book notes, man. Anything else left from the movie?
Nothing on my end. I think we're getting ready to, we'll wrap up this week, and then we'll wrap up the movie shortly after.
That's true. All right. Well, let's just get into tomorrow's admittedly short episode.
As always, you can find us online. We are available on Instagram at the Dune Minute. We are on Blue Sky at Dune Minute. We are on Twitter at Dune Minute, and you can email duneminute@gmail.com if you'd like to get in touch with us. Thank you for listening. we'll close out the week tomorrow.
All right. See you then.